Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing an updated morning routine. Obviously the mornings are a big part of my day, and also we got some new animals, so my routine has been switched up a little bit. This takes me about an hour to do the rounds in the morning, so I thought I would show a more detailed video on my routine in the morning with the animals and in the garden. Especially in the summer months, the mornings are crucial for working in the garden because of course it's nice and cool. So I usually take about an hour from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock to feed the animals, start a project in the garden, and then I'll come in and out depending on the temperature. And then of course I come back at it in the evenings to work on any projects. So like today after I post this video, I actually have a lot of work that I have to do in the garden. So I got up a little earlier to accomplish this. First things first is at around 7 o'clock I feed the dogs. They're the first to rise with me, but they're ready to eat and go outside right at 7 o'clock. So I feed them first, and then I feed Blue. I also like to give a little good morning love to each of the animals, which takes a few minutes, and everybody's so excited to get their food and greet me in the morning. It's just really fun for me to go out and be with them. But just feeding the animals alone takes about 20 minutes. Next up, it's time to feed our newest addition, which is the goats. We have Chiquita, which is the mama, Penny, and Daisy. Their goat pen is still not finished. It's actually been so hot outside. It's been like 105, 109 degrees. It was 109 degrees 2 days ago, that we haven't had a chance to build as much, to have as many hours in the day to do the projects that we wanted to do. But we started the door for them to go into the barn, so it'll be an indoor-outdoor. Right now they do have a roof outside, so they do have access to shade, and of course I've been making sure that they have lots of fresh water and lots of fresh cool snacks like watermelon, things like that. But for now their feed just goes on the floor, which I don't prefer, and in the next few days that will no longer be the case. And then eventually they'll be able to go inside and outside of the barn, probably in the next week or so. So we're just in the process of working through that. But right now, of course, they are a part of my feeding schedule and giving them fresh water as well. They have free range time every day that's monitored so that they don't eat everything. They only eat the things I want them to eat. And then, I pay attention to them, give them lots of snacks. So when we go out of town, that's probably going to be the trickiest part when it comes to the goats. But so far, so good. Next up is the chickens, of course, fresh water. We have some baby chicks, which I don't think I captured in this video. They live in a chicken tractor, which is basically just a movable chicken coop. And you can move them in different areas so that they have shade and that they can scratch different areas of the yard. Sort of like free ranging, but safely. Anyway, so I'm giving some fresh water and some feed to the chickens. And then everybody gets scraps and leftovers and snacks throughout the day. If we have leftover cucumber or watermelon, and you'll see in a bit, I'll show that they get lots of snacks along with their feed. So moving on now, I usually start actually in the rose garden, but today I kind of switched it up a little bit and I'm starting in the big garden. I usually just sort of look around, see what's just how everything's looking, if I need to harvest anything. Byron wakes up pretty much right after me, so he'll be out any second now. He also does pretty much the same thing. He usually is in a different area of the garden when I'm in one area. So right now I'm just kind of checking on the watermelons. They're not quite ready, but they're getting there. We harvested one the other day, actually two, and they were amazing. And then we had, of course, leftover rind that we shared with the goats, and they loved it. Right here you can see it's a little darker in that darker patch. I planted 3 rows for fall, And then I can plant more once I have room. So once I harvest all of the squash, which we have a lot of squash. And so I'm probably going to can some squash. Squash has a pretty decent shelf life, and there's a lot of different ways to use it actually. I'll use it instead of potatoes, like I'll do a squash hash with eggs in the morning, or there's a lot of different ways to be creative with it, but yeah, squash, we have a lot of it. And then I go into the rose garden. I like to check on the roses. Sometimes I even like to pick some of the roses if it's time. With roses, I usually prune when they bloom. So if there's one that looks like it's bloomed and it might have a day or two left, I'll usually pick it and put it in a little bouquet inside the house. Next, I moved to the herb garden, which is the only garden that we do not have on irrigation. So I hand water everything, and I just love the smell, and I love to harvest what's in the herb garden. I can pretty much harvest calendula every single day, so I go out and check my calendula plant. I can harvest mint and have some mint tea. There's a lot of goodness going on in the herb garden, so I love to spend a little bit of time in there. Finally, I'm heading over to our other garden. This is where we have our berries, a few different trees. We have a lot over here, but our beds right now are pretty empty. And so I'm just kind of raking the soil, just kind of loosening it up over there. Not really doing much because what I have to do is I have to amend the soil. So for where I'm going to plant carrots, I want to do carrots, onions, turnips, beets. There's a few different things I want to plant for the fall, but I'm also waiting till this heat wave is past because it's just been so crazy hot. But I can prep in the meantime. So for amending the soil, I might do a video more specifically on the fall garden, but I'm going to add some sand to our compost just because carrots really like that. Usually I have just enough time to feed the animals, look around the garden, do a little harvesting here and there, and maybe get a project started before it's time to go inside and wake up the boys. Now, if the boys aren't awake by 8, I'll wake them up. Otherwise, sometimes they wake up on their own. And so I head inside usually so that I'm inside when they wake up. Right now I'm just doing some dishes, and I also wanted to clean the dogs' bowls, which I don't do every single day because they don't need to be cleaned every day. But when I notice that they're starting to get a little gross, I clean out their water bowl and their bowls just so that everybody has fresh, clean water containers. And I do the same for the chickens and goats. I like to make sure all of their containers are cleaned regularly, and obviously that's why I want to have a special feeder for the hay as well, just to keep everything as clean as possible. And then, it's 8 o'clock on the dot. So Isaiah was the first to get up. He's usually my first to rise. And so we're going to go wake up Oliver, going to have some breakfast, and then we start school at 9. So 8 o'clock gives us enough time to just chat for a little bit, get some breakfast, get dressed, and then get over to our little schoolroom where we are doing our distance learning.
Could you go do me a favor? Get these to the hallway closet. Remember where the paint is when we went to Ainsley?
The dogs have 2 different water bowls, one for inside and one for outside. So I like to try to clean those up. So it's been a while that we've been trying to ditch the Keurig, and we've been talking about it for years, but we obviously enjoyed that convenience when our children were younger. We recently moved to a French press, and we have our ground coffee in these mason jars. We've got some coconut sugar. I have some dried tea from the garden, and so I'm just going to put my bouquet and also some fresh mint from the garden right next to where we make the tea and the coffee, just so it's nice in the morning. And then I'm going to make myself some tea. Byron usually does French press coffee. We have two different kinds. I have the Four Sigmatic, the mushroom coffee, and then just, I think, like a Starbucks ground coffee. Depending on the morning, I might have coffee or a few sips of Byron's coffee, but I feel like many mornings my body just wants something a little bit more clear, something simple, and I like to drink what's from the garden, so I've dried a lot of the herbs from the garden. All right, so moving on, it's around 9 o'clock, everybody's dressed and fed, and we all have coffee and tea, and all the chores are done for the morning. We started school this week, so we have some fun learning games for Isaiah and Oliver, some face wipes, pens and pencils. His school provided an iPad for learning, and then he uses my computer to meet with his teacher. His grandma made a really fun little DIY, these little apples here, so when he does a good job listening or when he does a good job on one of his assignments, we move one of those over. And then he can get a treat once they all go over. We also have some games, some fun learning games, math and reading, and tons of books. Oliver was in a really great public school last year. We loved his teacher. Of course, we did the distance learning, which was kind of more like homeschooling because I was spending several hours working on his homework with him. And he didn't really have any interaction with his teacher last year. They didn't really tell us what was happening this year until just recently. And so I did have a backup plan to homeschool. I was ready to go to kind of pull him out and to sign him up to a homeschool. But he actually has a teacher assigned. And so far it's been great. I've been sitting there listening to his lessons and she's been fantastic. So if you want to hear more about that, I can share in a video by itself. While he's finishing up school before we get to lunchtime, I'm going to go give all the animals a little snack. So any leftover, sometimes my kids don't finish their watermelon or we have leftover lettuce from a dinner. She's so cute. So I wanted to give them a nice, cool snack. I'll usually keep that in the freezer or the refrigerator and plan to give everybody a little snack. So that completes my morning routine. If you want to see a little bit of a deeper dive on our distance learning area, our kind of homeschool desk, if you will. It was a little messy, but I can show that. But so far so good. I really respect his teacher, and I feel like I can learn a lot from her, to be honest, and just to be able to sit there and listen in on the lesson and help him out. I really respect and appreciate all the teachers and what they're doing, and it's wonderful to be able to have him home, but also to know that he's getting a really good education. So we'll see what the future holds. I may homeschool, and that was the plan originally, but so far I'm enjoying this. So anyway, I'll be back with a new video soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.